This is a ladder game that I played last night. My name is Bone Zone and I'm playing as Lifestealer. I had the ability to pick last with a team of Sniper, Disruptor, Pudge and Dawnbreaker against Legion Commander, Witch Doctor, Windrunner and Void Spirit, with one being blank, which happened to be the simultaneous pick of my Lifestealer and their Ursa. My current pick list of melee characters that I try to combine with ranged supports, which I knew was going to be Disruptor, are Lifestealer and Ursa and Anti-Mage. Between the three, I had to make a pick. Now I know if I would have picked Ursa, it would have been counterbanned by the enemy Ursa pick. And then I would have gone to Lifestealer, but I wouldn't have been against Ursa. And Ursa has a bit of a good matchup into Lifestealer, quite a bit of a good one, since I'm supposed to be a tanky self-sustaining hero, and he has the ramping up damage of the Fury swipes against me. So my sustain will be troubled. Be that as it may, I decided to go with Lifestealer. Anyway, I thought it's going to be fine. Lifestealer into Legion Commander has an okay matchup, because even if she duels me, I'm still going to get feast value against her, and I'll likely survive, or at least be an extremely good tank for my team. In this game, this is the pick I made. I'm not sure it's the right pick. I also don't have all the heroes pickable, but I was position 1, and that's the decision I ended up going with. So in this lane, against Windrunner and Legion Commander, I feel fairly comfortable, as I can hit Lifestealer with quite big regularity. I am confident in my item build and so on. But after the laning phase, we don't know exactly what is going to be happening. So after the laning phase, I am going to look at the fight and be like, okay, who can I kill easily with just running at people and hitting them? And it's not that easy. Windrunner has the Windrun ability. Witch Doctor can turn himself into a totem with the shard. Void Spirit has high mobility. And at least 2 of them tend to grab Blink Dagger in Ursa and Legion Commander, which means they can try to dive my backline. We have 3 frontline in Dawnbreaker, Pudge and Lifestealer, with 1 backline, Sniper, who's position 2, who may end up feeling like position 1 as the game goes on, as he needs to be protected. He's our only range damage, and he's our best tower hitter, with me being second, I suppose, if I have Aegis. Dawnbreaker is supposed to be counter initiation with Solar Guardian. Dawn in this game is playing position 4, so it will be largely about being across the map, using Solar Guardian to jump in and save people, whereas Pudge is our initiation, either by being a tank, an absolute unit that gets engaged on and then dismembering people, or by opening up with a meat hook initiation. As for the opponent, pretty much everyone except Witch Doctor has some kind of hard engage. They're gonna grab Blink, they have a jump, they have double jump. They get a nice kill here on position 1. Anyway, that's just the start of the game. But in the late game, we have to protect Sniper. Enemy has 3 to 4 divers. And so I have to think about, how do I itemize for this game? What is gonna be my purpose in this game? And I pretty much very early on came up with the idea to open up with Heaven's Halberd. Whether it was 100% correct, as would be agreed by all TI winners ever, I don't know, but it felt okay to me. In a previous game with BSJ coaching, he had given me the following build. We open up with the Matumba Man starter items, the triple gauntlets of strength, quelling blades, and the tango, and we fly in a branch, and we fly in a tango as soon as possible. After that, we transition to the face boots. After face boots, it's gonna be the Armlet of Mordigian, and after that you've got a couple of options. You can go for Desolator and hit people when you have a lot of lockdown on your team. You can open up with Sage and Yasha to give you movement speed and attack speed and lifesteal and health regen amp, status resistance, and you get that strength and agi. And that's a nice little item that makes you tankier and just really helps, especially if your net worth is climbing ahead of your peers. Then an item like that is going to make you really, really hard to kill as Lifestealer. In the BSJ coaching game, he recommended I get the Sage and Yasha. I figured Halberd is close enough to it in terms of survivability, as it offers status resistance and strength, also evasion and health steal, lifesteal, regen amp, etc, etc. And then I get a disarm that can help me to save someone else when they get dueled, or it helps me to equalize the duel between me and Ursa a little bit more. So that was my idea. And I didn't mind trying it out, even though I had never played it before. And there's lots of options in Dota, and sometimes there's even multiple valid options, with the choice that you're making eventually leading to you having a playstyle that fits that. After all, grabbing a blink is one playstyle.
Lifestealer is the best.
You can also go straight basher. You can go for a desolator. You can do lots of different things, and all of them will play differently. So it's not just about which item is theoretically correct in the truth of all truths, but it's also how do you play it. Heaven's Halberd is an item that I sometimes avoid because I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I felt comfortable doing it because I just wanted to believe in myself, and I figured it might be useful against Ursa and LC. And I feel like Dawnbreaker is going to be our counter initiation. So she is not going to be someone that starts the fight. Pudge will start the fight only if he gets engaged on or gets a hook. And that made me another influence on the front line. And I wanted to be tanky. And I think the Halberd was going to help with that. So that was my thinking with that.
When ancient.
Maybe soon. The alternatives would be to go for a basher, to go for the Saints and Yasha, and maybe there's more alternatives as well. You can let me know what you think would be cool with that. So that was my idea for the mid game. And now what's interesting is, and this is a little spoiler, we end up eventually not winning this game. And the question is it because of the items? Is it because of decisions? So one thing I noticed is really, really common as position 1 is you're going to get blamed when you're playing well, and you're going to get blamed when you're playing poorly. But usually the type of blame that you get, and I'm not just talking about Twitch or YouTube comments, even allies, the type of blame that you get is usually you need to group more. Your allies could be getting their asses kicked over and over, and you're not part of those fights, and they're going to notice that, and then they're going to ask for you to join. Whether that's correct or not is really up in the air sometimes. They don't have the information you have. They may not have the experience you have. Maybe they have more. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're not. But I have noticed that the source complaint is almost always, you're not here. Whereas it could be just as valid to ask someone not to be here. After all, let's talk about what happens when you're all here, wherever here may be. If you're all together, then you need to get some kind of objective. An objective in Dota is where you take down towers, or you take down Roshan. Those are the objectives. Lane creeps refresh ad infinitum, and so do jungle creeps. Net worth, gold, those help. Having allies alive, that helps. Killing enemies, that helps. But it's all a means to an end in order to buff up your experience and your net worth, and eventually to get the objectives. You need to destroy the Ancient, and everything else is a path towards it. And the towers and the Roshan are objectives that help greatly with that. So there are many games where it may be correct to group in order to either be ready for a fight because you're going to get attacked, or because you want to take the fight to them, or because you think the enemy is smoked or you want to smoke. But there may also be many times where it's correct to split. And I've talked a little bit about that in my top 10 good habits video. Sometimes when you are losing early game, it's correct to split. After all, grouping is like an implicit message, we want to fight. If we are in 3 lanes, we're getting 3 lanes worth of XP and CS. If we're in 1 lane, we're getting 1 lane worth. If we are in 1 lane and they're in 3 lane, and we're not fighting and we're not killing the person in this lane, the enemy is getting 3 times as much CS as us, and that is a bad thing. You want more CS than the enemy, and rather not less. And I say enemy, and I'm supposed to say opponent. That's a linguistic mistake. Someone on YouTube got really angry I said enemy instead of opponent. But it's true. We are not enemies, we're just opponents for the match. So anyway, when you group, you need to get things done. And when you don't group, you want to avoid getting things done. It makes sense, right? If the opposite is true, then the opposite goal is true too. After all, when we are in 3 lanes and the enemy groups as 5, what should be the role of the 2? Enemy opponent has 5, we have 2. What do we want? We want to fight, want to avoid. You want to avoid. Here you are 1 versus 0. Here you are 2 versus 0, right? And I'm simplifying it, not mentioning the jungle, just in terms of lanes. The more people you have somewhere, the more you need something to happen. That also means when you join your ally, you want to have those things happen, and you're confident that you can make those things happen. So we're going to see some moments in the game as we go to some timestamps where things happen that we may or may not want to have happen. And a lot of it comes down to everyone's item timings, everyone's momentum in the game, how much item timings are we waiting for, how many are the opponent waiting for, and so on and so forth. So a couple of benchmarks to look at. For instance, it is the 10-minute mark. Okay, there we go. The 10-minute mark is a nice benchmark to look at in a game of Dota 2, where you can see who is strong, who had a good laning phase. So if you look at the net worth, anything from 3.5 to 4.5 is pretty nice. Over 4.5, you're popping off. Under 3k, you've had a rough time. And this is for cores. So I'm at 4.5, I'm doing good. So is Void. Void beat Sniper in the mid lane. I beat LC in the mid lane. My support, Disruptor, had been useful for the lane. His net worth is a little lower than Windrunner, which is normal. And LC has 3.4, which is decent, but I won the lane. Now, when do I generally feel ready to fight? Technically, I can fight now, but I don't necessarily have a lot of lockdown and chase yet. So even if there are people that I can technically kill, I wouldn't want to go and kill them yet, per se. Putch with this member already has skill power since he has the total lockdown, and so does Dawnbreaker with Celestial Hammer and with Starbreaker. Sniper can hit people so long as they don't run away, and when they do, that's about it. One assassinate. Disruptor has skill power with the Glimpse. As for the opponent, Void can chase people down, so can Windrunner, though she's low level. LC already has Duel, whereas Ursa is level 6. He's got some kill power in that he has a chase with Earthshock, which gives a slow. And Witch Doctor, not level 6 yet. I don't know if he has access to Tome of Knowledge. I believe he does. No level 6, but Witch Doctor always has some kill power with his stun and Maledict. So as the game goes on, from my perspective, I'm going to be looking at completing my Armlet of Merdigion, which we're getting pretty close to. And I have my Armlet now. So at this time, I'm going to follow the BSJ item guide that he had given me previously in the coaching, which is Armlet of Merdigion into Maelstrom. So we fast forward to Maelstrom. Maelstrom does good in fights, and it also gives me extra farming. So when my Maelstrom comes in, I'm going to be able to do jungle camps more quickly. Someone stacked the Ancient camp here, which is really useful. And at this moment, I'm 2 kills, 0 death, 0 assist. We are 14 and 7. Generally, we're doing well. We have a 58% win chance, and I'm farming. So one of the major moments in the game is the 23-minute mark, as we kind of fast forward. At this point, we are 57% favored, according to Dota Plus. I have my Heaven's Halberd. It was actually a small moment a little bit earlier. The moment I got my Halberd, I got into a fight that nearly got me killed. And I want to remind myself what happened. How did I get to that situation? I also asked BSJ for some feedback, and I'll be sharing it when we get to the timestamps that we talked about. In fact, it looks like he gave me 1430 feedback, and I'll read it out to you now. 1430. So where am I at 1430? Okay, I have my Armlet. Let's roll back a little to know what headspace we were in. So at this time, I have my Armlet. I end up TPing top. Okay, why did I TP top? Let's roll it back to the 130 mark. So I've got my Armlet, and Disruptor and I are here. Here is Legion Commander. I end up clearing the wave. What do I do next? So I clear the wave. So now the options are take this jungle camp, or push into the tower, or go to the jungle here. But none of these jungle camps are available. It will take me like 10 seconds to walk here and take it, and then I'd be farming out this jungle. And I would say that is a possibility. I could have gone all the way over here. It's not super feng shui because it's quite a bit of a walk. But looking at it now, I don't think I needed to necessarily TP top. I could probably run to this camp, do this, or whatever. Or maybe take this, and then back here when it respawns, this, and more lane. Waiting for the lane is not super attractive now because it's in their tower. And ideally, I would take these now if they were up. And then because of the tower, this wave would die and the next one would come towards me. but I kind of ran out of an immediate option in my immediate vicinity, so I ended up TPing top. And I don't think it's fantastic because we already got 2 there. So I would say, looking at it myself, I don't think it is necessarily a fantastic play. But now at least I know where I was at in my thinking. I end up going here to wait a bit until he gets the stack here. I take the stack. This camp came back as well. I can go cut a creep wave behind the tower. I figured, or take this one. He fast farmed it. Now I went to cut the creep wave behind the tower. Okay. So now we're at the 1430 mark almost. And this is what BSJ had a comment about. Lifestealer is very good at holding towers by being ungankable. So if you TP out to the opponent's safe lane, you should prioritize taking their tower because you are likely going to be losing your own. So the tower is better than jungle creeps in priority. If they were to kill your tower first, they could then easily TP in and prevent the trade. Yeah. I think... So he's commenting based on the fact that I already left. And then what I should do next, rather than this jungle camp and waiting for this one and cutting a wave. I could be hitting that tower right away. Our tower is full life right now. And I actually didn't read his comment until getting to this moment. I actually feel remorse leaving here in general. I think I could have been satisfied taking some jungle creeps and returning. It's such a waste to give up the full HP tower. I didn't look at this yesterday when I checked the replay, but yeah, before he said it already, I don't like it. We end up losing this tower and it sucks. I was strong and I gave them a free tower for half a tower of theirs. This was me adhering to the idea. I remember asking my team here if they could go and defend the tower. I think that was my ping. It was Disruptor's ping. And we just lost the whole thing and it sucks. I don't like it. And this was me over adhering to the concept that you would eventually leave your safe lane tower as a 1 and trade to their tower because of the equilibrium of safety, which now has moved here because of the distance of these 2 towers.
You're a living legend, Grub.
Technically, literally, yeah. Because we're in Legend League right now. So yeah, I think I overcommitted it early. And he's right too. You're quite ungankable because of the 4-second rage spell immunity and the armlet, which gives you loads of survivability. And I can always get help because the tower is still alive. So that I over-applied a very simplified rule. Okay, let's look at the next point. The 23-minute mark. Actually, I wanted to see what happens after I get my halberd, because I remember something happened. I was bottom right again. So, where am I now? Okay, here it is. So let's go back a bit and I'll remember what happened going into here. So I went back to take my ancients because the next wave at that time was too far. The jungle creep here was already gone. So I went back to get our ancients. So if you look at the minimap now, you see, by the way, they have vision on our ancient. We have vision 1, 2, 3 in the middle here. Okay. So I end up going to the middle, looking to get the mid creep wave. I feel relatively safe because of rage. I see 2. I actually pre-blocked the shackle because I felt it coming. I get the whole wave. And now where do I go? Now I end up going for the double damage rune because I saw it. So the double damage rune here dictated my play, which is interesting actually because I could have gone back to the ancients. I could have caught the next wave at the top tower. These are all possibilities. I could have let Pudge hook the DD and not grab it. This does end up dictating my movement, which is not something I consciously thought about during the game. Because what do I do after I grab this? Probably I would want to rush into their jungle. I'm really strong right now, stronger than everyone else in the game. And with the DD rune, nobody should be able to contest me if I have the support of my team. We have a Pudge with Blink, everyone is near me. So I don't think it's bad to be here and to grab the DD rune, as long as we do something good with it. We may not be able to take down their tower, but we're definitely able to bully them in their own side of the map a bit. We could go to their outposts, we could go to their ancient. Ends up, that Void comes here, he blinks in, we kill things. So now I do end up going to their ancients because I feel strong. I have DD. I end up playing too safe, actually. I meet Ursa and I infest away. I think I forgot that it was my Dawnbreaker. Anyway, we've got Glimpse, so he still ends up dying. And then we also end up killing Witch Doctor, so it was good. We get a bunch of kills, we get their ancient, and then what? Well, now I'm gonna go bot again because it is the nearest tower and I still feel strong. So I go under their tower. I ended up getting a big creep wave. And so what the enemy does, let's see what happens. So you actually have Witch Doctor TPing in Vision, LC hiding with Blink and Blade Mail. And they end up engaging on me. Luckily, team has a pretty good instinct that what I'm doing here is potentially dangerous. They saw the Witch Doctor TPing in, so they immediately come and try to help me. That's a nice... wow. He's being dismembered from this far because of Glimpse. That's funny. But ironically, the Glimpse actually ends up saving LC. Though it may have saved me too. I end up using Armlet of Merdigian on the final tick of Maledict in order to survive. But I'm so low, and I'm actually not daring to turn it off yet. Maybe I should have, because I thought LC might use overwhelming odds, and I had forgotten whether he still has that available. He ends up blinking here. We end up not finding him. And so I end up TPing out because I got no health at all. I want to move to the opposite side of the map because I've got no health to continue the fight. Unless I feel like I'm a crazy scripter with my Armlet of Merdigian. So what happens next is that they come in. We don't have our safe lane tower anymore because of my prior error. Disruptor gets left behind and he gets killed off. At this time, this is a typical do not give them what they want. Don't give them a fight because, well, we know that we forced all enemies to come bot. And so we can just wait behind tower and don't engage, don't fight. Dawnbreaker has no TP. Sniper has no TP. I don't know why they always don't have TP. They don't have. But no matter what, we probably don't want to fight simply because I left and Disruptor's dead. We do have some ults available, but Dawn does not have Solar Guardian. We know they're coming, so just leave. This is a little sus. Sniper shows he wants to be mid. I am top, and this hook, even if it hit, I don't think it would do anything because it's a 2v4. So they end up getting punched. This is the moment my allies started to get frustrated by my not being there, but there's no way that I could have been here or would have wanted to be here, and this was really unnecessary. Dawn was position 4. She could not have had Halberd, Arca War Chief. So what's interesting, I took, at the end of the game, I took a little bit of criticism from Twitch chat for building the Halberd, even though many had the idea themselves, and I liked the idea, and it was my idea too. I asked BSJ before I showed the game, in this lineup, what items would you go with Lifestealer? And to my surprise, he actually said Halberd into AC. The exact same build that I went for, so that feels a little vindicating. Of course, it doesn't mean that he and I are necessarily correct, but it can't be the worst either. So end up in this fight. So this, I think, was a big mistake by me. To back up to what happened. At this time, my team was flaming me for not being with team, even though it's obvious to see that it was not my fault. I end up taking their jungle, which was fully warded. And then when I saw Ursa TPing in, I decided to challenge him, which is just unnecessary. 4 of my allies are dead. One after the other ran into the enemy, even though we knew where they were coming from since 2 minutes ago. And then I did the same thing here. I should just run to the left. I can still rage TP out. Just run to the left, go back, circle all the way back to my ancients or whatever. I can neither go top nor run towards where I knew the enemy was. So I either TP out bot now or I just run to the left, like either way. But this was not wise. Ends up being the Dawnbreaker ults in. I actually end up killing Ursa quite surprisingly. This is an Aghanim Scepter Dawn, which is why it took so long. So I think BSJ wrote something about this moment. Minute 23, he said. This reminds me of when I told you to run at the Slark as Ursa in your game. He was forced to ult and run away. This was mainly due to him being underfarmed. Ursa hard counters Lifestealer in fights and when farming. So you have to be very careful of who you willingly confront when you are farming. In these examples, you would farm the jungle nearby. Let Ursa push out the wave and farm the wave. And once you see that he leaves, that's when you can do that. These type of deaths are the most costly deaths a carry can have. If you look at the win probability graph in this game, you will see how costly it was. Let me see.
Radiant structures are fortified.
We're at 50-50.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower.
We dropped to 43 before I died, and it stayed there.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Regeneration.
Well, I think it costs like 5%. It didn't cost that much. You were 60-40, dropped to... Yeah, but that's when my team died.
Radiant's middle tower is
Look,
under attack.
before my team died, when Patch tried to hook the Witch Doctor, we were at 58. Then they all died.
Dire are Radiant's middle
And it
tower
dropped to
is under
50
attack.
and 47. Then I decided to fight.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
And it went from 43. Dawn died.
Regeneration.
And it went to like 40. So it wasn't actually that bad. According to BSJ, he said the win rate dropped. It was mostly because of you. But I don't think it is true. I don't think it is entirely true, not based on the stats. But anyway, we died twice in a row, pretty much within 2 minutes. So now let's see. These type of deaths are costly, yeah. Because I went into, I mean, it was a dumb contest with Ursa. It's similar to what we talked about in your Ursa game when I said it was okay to have your team die, so long as you're still farming. You are in a really bad matchup, Lifestealer versus Ursa, so this death was incredibly punishing in terms of scaling. And then 25-minute mark. 25-minute mark, when you do have mistakes like the last death, it's really important to reset. Get your next item and fight again later. Your team is dying one at a time, and at no point is it an even fight bottom. You asked if you could fight 3v5. Ah, yes. This was my question to him, 25-minute mark. So what happened here is we're all alive, and I'm farming the Ancients, and Disruptor is with me. And Dawn, let's see, Dawn just revived. They're coming here. Oh yeah, Dawnbreaker walked up. I had warned them that the enemies at the outpost. He walked up, got caught in vision, got focus fired, and he got dueled. Okay, so now Dawn is dead, and I've just finished this camp. So now I have the option to farm towards mid. I knew all 5 are here. I have the option to go top, and I have the option to maintain my TP to join my team at the tower. This is something we talked about last night. Witch Doctor walks down here and finds Pudge. Sniper is standing here with 1 second TP. Disruptor's coming, has no TP. And Dawnbreaker obviously is dead with no buyback. And I have TP and I'm walking away. So this is one of those moments where the enemy is as 5. So remember what I said about enemies or opponents being as 5. What is your goal? It's either to further your net worth or XP on the map, or to get objectives. Now, I am also furthering my XP and net worth if I farm lanes and jungle. If they're gonna kill Pudge, that is also XP and net worth, but it's shared by 5 people and maybe they get 1 lane worth of creeps. If we're getting 3 lane worth of creeps, we're fine. So we really don't wanna have Dawnbreaker walk up alone here because he's our counter initiation hero. He walked into vision, it happens, shit happens, whatever. After that, you should hide in bushes behind tower, and you should farm 3 lanes, and you should keep track of where the opponents are. They are committed to making a play because they're all together. They're wasting time if we don't give them the fight. Now, Dota also has backdoor protection. The wave is meeting at the equilibrium point, and a little over the equilibrium point. None of our towers are under threat. They all have the backdoor protection. Right? So they cannot kill this tower. We do not see them in the lane, so they are not getting lane XP. And my question was, should I TP to team? So Witch Doctor goes in and solo engages on Pudge. Sniper starts walking towards. Disruptor starts walking towards. Dawn is dead, and I'm walking away. So I got blamed for not being with team. Even though the only thing that the enemy gets here is given to them by Pudge being out in the open. Sniper ends up walking away. Disruptor ends up being able to walk away, but initiates on them. And this is where it happened. If you go back a bit, I end up TPing towards team right here. And the question was, should I let this TP finish? I did a poll last night and 34% said, yes, you should go, even though Dawn and Pudge are already dead. And 66% said, I would not go. You should not go. And BSJ said, I should not go. He said, when you have mistakes like the last death, it's important to reset, get your next item. So what am I working on is Assault Cuirass.
Merry Christmas, Grubby.
Merry Christmas,
and to your
Embrace.
wife and Logan 2 less than 3.
Ah, thank you. He looked up. Your team is dying one at a time. And at no point is it an even fight bottom. You asked if you should fight the 3v5. But you definitely cannot with Lifestealer against Ursa. However, I want to emphasize what this fight would net you if you were to win or if the opponent wins. When Dawnbreaker died, if you see the creep waves on the map, the opponent cannot push either bottom or mid tower, meaning there's no relevant tower nearby, making it a pointless fight. Your team TPing in and trying to help each other is just save a buddy syndrome. And it's because they are not considering important objectives. When you see creeps like this and your team is fighting like this, I want to emphasize you should never TP, even if you might win the fight. Remember, if you're allowed to farm the entire map while your team is dying, it's generally good to just keep doing it. So that's what I said last night too, that I shouldn't go, though I changed my mind. I was like, maybe I can go, who knows, maybe we would have won the fight. It's a morale play. So at this point, my team completely lost morale. They blamed me, they pinged me, they tipped me, and so on and so on. But I think I made very few mistakes until now, until this point in the game. Like, yeah, I went under the tower here, and that's how I died. And for the rest, I was blamed that we were losing.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Yeah, I got one guide by chat, and 4 guide by the rest of the team. And it's pretty common as a 1 that people start blaming you when they die. And really, often the case is just do not group. And it's funny because they are usually saying, can we finally group for once? When usually my mind is we should do the opposite of grouping unless we are losing objectives. But I do think we're a little behind due to the draft because of the Ursa thing, which is actually why I need to focus even more on limiting my mistakes and limiting bad fights. Yeah, it's a pointless gamble if I had gone there. Maybe we kill them and that's about it. The TP is too late. You can either TP earlier before Pudge dies or just push lanes like you did. That was my thought too, that I could have gone earlier and maybe it would have worked because it was right before Ursa arrives. But again, I already wrote off that whole fight due to the lane position and the enemy's position. You learn this in HOTS as well. When there are no objectives and you're fighting in the middle of the map, both teams are engaging in a pointless fight. Right? You're not fighting over the boss, over the Roshan. You're not fighting over a keep, a barracks, a tower. That's a pointless fight. Nobody has an excuse to take it, except the one that ends up winning it. It's okay to do a pointless fight if you end up winning it. So if you start a pointless fight with 1 or 2 deaths, you can literally just walk away because the opponent gets nothing out of remaining there.